The MG S5 EV has quietly become one of the easiest electric SUVs in Europe to recommend, and the version in front of me here explains why. This is the Excite, the trim that sits at the bottom of the 64 kilowatt-hour range, and in a lot of ways it is the most interesting one MG sells. Everything that made people pay attention to this car is already here, before you start adding money. Start with what that money is. On the board in this Romanian showroom, the Excite long range lands at 34,200 euros with the current promotion applied, a little under $40,000 once you convert it. The list price before the offer sits closer to 38,000. That gap matters, and I will come back to it because it changes how you should think about this whole car. From the front, the S5 carries the new MG face well, the slim running lights, the closed nose, the octagon badge sitting clean in the middle. It does not look like a budget product, and that alone tells you how far this brand has moved. This is a compact family SUV, not a coupe pretending to be one. In this gray, under showroom lighting, it reads as a more expensive car than it is. The 17-inch wheels here are worth pausing on. The bigger trims get 18s, but the smaller wheel rides better and adds a little range. And on a car like this, I would take that trade every time. Around the back, the full-width light bar ties the tailgate together, and the boot is a real strength. 453 liters with the seats up, expanding to 1,441 folded. That is competitive for the class, and the load floor is flat and usable. Inside is where MG has made the biggest leap, and where the Excite makes its case. The dashboard is built around a 12.8-inch central screen and a digital cluster, but the part I appreciate most is below the screen. Physical buttons for the climate, a proper volume control, and a rotary gear selector on the console. After years of everything disappearing into menus, reaching for a real button feels like a small relief. The materials hold up too. The upper dash is soft. The seat fabric is a woven gray that looks more considered than you expect at this price, and the floating console hides a deep storage tray underneath. It is not overdone, which is important. Now the powertrain. A single rear-mounted motor producing 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, driving the rear wheels. 0 to 60 arrives in a little over 6 seconds, and the rear drive layout gives it a balance the cheaper hatchback it shares parts with already proved works. That MG4 underneath is not a weakness here. It is the reason this car drives better than its price suggests, and MG retuned the suspension for the heavier body. If breakdowns like this help you sort the trim you actually want from the one the brochure pushes, subscribe so you catch the next one. The 64 kilowatt-hour battery is good for up to 288 miles on the larger wheels and closer to 298 on the smaller ones. It charges on a 400-volt system at up to 139 kilowatts on DC, going from 10 to 80% in about 28 minutes. Home charging runs at 11 kilowatts on AC, better than the 7 kilowatt setup some rivals still ship with. It is not perfect, and the honest weak spot is in how it manages that energy on the move. The adaptive regenerative braking, the system that slows the car and feeds charge back to the battery, is slow to respond, and there is no true coasting mode. You cannot fine-tune the regen with paddles either, only step through 3 fixed levels with a button on the wheel. The saving grace is that the brake pedal blends the regen and the friction brakes smoothly, so in normal driving you rarely notice the gap, and the one-pedal mode works well once you commit to it. So back to that price gap, because this is the real point of the Excite. The loaded trims add a powered tailgate, heated seats, a bigger camera setup, the 18-inch wheels, nice things. But the Excite already gives you the same battery, the same motor, the same screen, the same physical controls, and the same 7-year warranty MG puts on every car here. You are not buying a stripped-out version of the S5. You are buying the same car with a shorter options list for several thousand less. And that is what makes this one quietly clever. At this price, against a Kia EV3 or a Skoda Elroq that both start higher, the S5 Excite is not asking you to settle, it is asking why you would pay more for the same idea. For a lot of buyers, that is a hard question to answer.